We're seeing that profit taking has continued on the bourse today. Take us through some of the movement of the stocks today.
Hi, Fenly. We continue to see increased profit taking given the initial rallies we've seen in the market from the beginning of the year. A number of companies have seen their prices declining significantly. I think Nigerian Lenemaware was one of the biggest losers, dropping 5% today amongst a number of other institutions. What we are also seeing is some level of bargain hunting, especially for a number of the companies that had problems in the early part of last year, especially the banks. We've seen stocks like Oceanic, Intercontinental Bank gaining the maximum 5% in the last probably 6 to 8 trading sessions. And we still continue to see very strong bids for a number of these companies. Zenith Bank was one of the most traded today. Volume was on top 500 million naira, almost about 20% of total volumes in the market. So we're seeing a situation whereby investors and speculators alike are basically applying the brakes to the upswing that we saw at the beginning of the year. The point to make here is this: the Nigerian market hasn't seen any significant impetus in the last 2 to 3 months. So there's no major driver for the market, and we don't see that changing for the first quarter of the year until we start seeing new numbers from the banks and other conglomerates listed on the bourse.
And just very briefly, Femi, some analysts are expecting the bourse to appreciate tomorrow. What's your take on it? How do you think it's going to close tomorrow?
I think it's a function of the sales pressure. If we continue to see the selling pressure that has driven the markets in the last 2-3 days, if that goes on unabated, I don't think that there's significant gas behind the rally that we saw in the past. If sales pressures continue and people seek to unwind positions, then you could see a small decline in the market tomorrow. I'm looking at a situation whereby probably from Monday, especially as the presidential issues sort themselves out over time, we could see a few bulls back on the exchange. But long-term direction, sorry, I take that back, short-term direction for the market, and by short-term I'm saying 0 to 3 months, for us is actually going to be very tight ranges between 21,900 on the high side and 2,500 on the low side.
Femi, if you could just stay on the line there for a few seconds, we'll come back to you. Meanwhile, the planned demutualization of the Nigerian Stock Exchange has been suspended till the market recovers from the effects of the global economic downturn, amongst other factors that almost crippled activities in the market and the economy. Also, the NSE boss, Indi Okereke Oniyuke, emphasized the need to strengthen the regulatory framework in the country and the capital market in order to avoid a recurrence of the recent crisis that almost brought the nation's economy and capital market to its knees. And to look at this further, Femi once again joins us. Femi, what were the initial plans of demutualization?
Well, the point has always been that ownership of the Nigerian Stock Exchange has been held by very few individuals and corporations, mostly the stockbrokers. And it's been a challenge because they continue to claim that the leadership of the exchange is almost completely detached from the main operators. And the push has always been that demutualization would improve efficiency, would improve corporate governance on the exchange itself. So it's something that we've always supported and believe that, look, if the Nigerian Stock Exchange was to break out and continue to grow, there was a need to improve corporate governance, and perhaps the best way to do that is to ensure that the operators are mostly the owners of the exchange.
Well, we're seeing in East Africa, the Nairobi Stock Exchange is demutualizing. So why did Nigeria stop?
Well, this is me speculating here. It's obvious that at the time when the demutualization issue was being discussed, which was in late 2008, I think the first major discussions around demutualization started in late 2008. The market was probably just starting to witness a significant bear run. The feeling from listening to the Director General of the exchange is that there is significant apathy from the investing public at the moment. And what the exchange wants to avoid is a situation whereby certain individuals actually own a significant portion of the exchange. If you were to do a demutualization today, a lot of the small scale, or what I would call the retail investors, would completely stay out of the market, because those guys are they're right now net investors in the market. So the issue is that, look, the market is witnessing a paucity of funding, and the exchange feels that it wasn't just the right time. Now, it's not been cancelled, it's only been delayed. There are plans, there are indications that we could see actual demutualization before the end of the year.
Part of the delay, is that purely because there's so much uncertainty and speculation over the president's health?
No, I don't think so. Don't forget that the stock exchange is mostly a private institution. There's almost no government ownership. I don't think it has anything to do with the president's health in any way. It's basically the economic environment at the moment does not lend itself to major capital raising. And I think the exchange has just seen that. If you look at the numbers that were announced by the CSCS last week, they're quite depressing. I mean, market volumes were down 71% in 12 months. That gives you an indication of how badly the Nigerian capital markets are performing at the moment. Yeah. There's a need to strengthen the regulatory environment around the stock market itself, around the Securities and Exchange Commission. There's just a lot of work that needs to be done at the moment. And I think that demutualization could actually be a distraction at this point in time for the exchange.
So how long do you expect the suspension to last for, the delay to last for?
I would imagine that towards the end of the tenure of the current DG, we should start seeing a lot of activity around demutualization. It's actually quite important, because you don't want a new DG or a new managing director, depending on however they're called at the end of demutualization, to start his or her tenure still confused on whether there's going to be demutualization or not. So my suspicion is that by the third quarter of 2010, we'll start seeing movement around the demutualization of the stock exchange.